Kentucky with Pope is entering a decisive moment in the recruitment of the 2025 class. This is a big move that you need to keep an eye on. But first, sign up and keep receiving the news from the Cats. This weekend, the Wildcats will have the chance to impress two of the most sought-after recruits in the country. Caleb Wilson already generated a lot of excitement among Big Blue Nation when he left on his official visit earlier this month. But now the focus turns to the visits of Chris Sinak and Mikael Brown Jr., two five-star recruits who could shape the future of the program. Chris Sinak, a power forward from Link Academy, is ranked number 7 overall in the class of 2025 by the On3 industry rankings. His presence in Lexington this weekend brings high expectations for the Wildcats, who already have one of the strongest recruiting classes in the country. Sinak's trajectory has been impressive, standing out in the Puma Pro 16/NXT circuit and gaining national attention from several top universities. Kentucky, which offered Sinak a scholarship in June, quickly rose up the list of prospects for the young talent, landing in the top 12 in early August. The competition, however, is fierce with LSU, Arkansas, Alabama, Auburn, Baylor, and others also in the running for his signature. The trickiest scenario for Kentucky regarding Sinak is that LSU appears to be the favorite to secure the power forward's commitment, with the last official visit scheduled for November. However, nothing is set in stone. Sinak has already visited Houston, Tennessee, and Auburn, and with additional visits scheduled, including one to Arkansas in October, his decision could come in the late signing period or even sooner, depending on how he feels after his visits. Either way, Pope and his staff have a big task this weekend, coming up with a compelling plan that shows Sinak that Kentucky is the ideal place for him to develop his game and reach the next level. Then there's the question of how the recruitment of Caleb Wilson might influence Sinak's perceptions of Kentucky. While it's highly unlikely that Kentucky will land both, the fact that Pope has made Sinak a top target demonstrates how highly he is valued by the Wildcats coaching staff. With Pope visiting Link Academy in person earlier this month, it's clear Kentucky is investing heavily in securing his signature. This weekend's visit will be pivotal, and Pope will have the opportunity to deliver a keynote speech to Sinak. DME Academy point guard Mikael Brown Jr. will also be in Lexington this weekend for his official visit. Ranked number 11 overall in the 2025 class, Brown is another elite talent Kentucky is actively courting. He comes to Kentucky after an unofficial visit to Louisville, which adds an extra layer of competitiveness to this recruiting race. Pope and his staff offered Brown in June, the same day Louisville extended their offer, which shows how tight this battle will be between the two rivals. Brown has visited several other schools, including Alabama, Ole Miss, Indiana, and Providence, and has other visits planned for the fall, including Maryland, Central Florida, and Arizona. Kentucky assistant coach Jason Hart was on hand to watch him play during the recent live session, showing the level of interest the Wildcats have in the point guard. Brown, who previously played for Overtime Elite, will be closer to home this senior season in Orlando, which could give Kentucky an edge in its bid to land him. The big dilemma for Kentucky with Brown is the potential overlap with other point guards on the Wildcats' radar. Five-star power forward Jasper Johnson is already committed to Kentucky for 2025, and point guard Caden Lewis is also a high-profile target for Pope's staff. While Kentucky would certainly be willing to take both Brown and Lewis, it's more likely that only one of them will end up wearing a Wildcats jersey. Kentucky's recent delisting of Braylon Mullins, another 4-star point guard, may have simplified things for the Wildcats, but there are still important decisions to be made. With two 5-star recruits visiting Kentucky this weekend, Mark Pope and his staff will have the chance to further solidify their already impressive 2025 class. Sinak and Brown are elite talents, and securing either would be a huge win for the Wildcats. However, with the competition fierce and multiple factors at play, Pope will need to not only present a clear game plan for how these players would fit into the team, but also show that Kentucky is the best path to long-term success. Let's get moving. Keon Brooks now of the New Orleans Pelicans, is a household name for college basketball fans, especially those who closely follow the Kentucky Wildcats program. His college basketball career has been marked by evolution and resilience, having gone through different phases and programs that shaped him as a player. Now, Brooks has the opportunity to prove his worth in the NBA, even if initially in a preseason scenario, where he will have to fight to secure a spot on an already very competitive roster. Brooks began his college career with the Kentucky Wildcats under John Calipari, where he played between the 2019-20 and 2021-22 seasons. During his first years at Kentucky, he stood out more for his effort, energy, and defensive versatility than for his offensive skills. His high intensity and commitment on the court earned Calipari's trust, despite him not yet being a dominant offensive player. However, as he gained more minutes and experience, Brooks began to expand his offensive repertoire, becoming a key part of the Wildcats' rotation. After 3 seasons at Kentucky, Brooks made the decision to transfer to the Washington Cougars, where he truly blossomed in his 5th-year season. In the 2023-24 season, Brooks took his game to new heights, finishing as the Pac-12 Conference's leading scorer with an impressive average of over 21 points per game. His ability to lead the Cougars' offense was accompanied by a significant improvement in his long-range shooting, something that had not previously been a hallmark of his game. Prior to his senior season, Brooks had never shot above 29% from three-point range. However, in his senior year, he shot at an impressive 38% efficiency, showing his ability to adapt and evolve as a player. This combination of size, physicality, and now an improved three-point shot makes Brooks an intriguing option for the New Orleans Pelicans. Even with the main roster largely locked in and his chances of making the regular season roster uncertain, training camp provides him with a perfect platform to show that he can compete at the professional level. What could set Brooks apart and earn him a shot at the NBA is precisely his ability to play as a utility player who contributes in multiple areas of the court, something he demonstrated throughout his college career. The path to securing a permanent NBA spot is challenging for any player coming off a college career, especially when it comes to a team like the Pelicans, who already have a deep roster. However, the opportunity to participate in training camp means Brooks will have the chance to impress not only New Orleans, but also other teams around the league who may be looking for a player with his skills. He has already shown in Kentucky and Washington that he can adapt to different roles and improve critical areas of his game, essential traits for a player looking to carve out a niche in the NBA. As Brooks prepares for the challenge of competing for his spot in the league, one thing is certain: his resilience and ability to grow will be key. At the end of this video, you can leave a comment. Willie Rodriguez is becoming one of the most intriguing stories of the early Kentucky football season, and rightfully so. In a time of high expectations led by head coach Mark Stoops, the rookie has not only earned his place on the field, but he's also forcing the veterans to step up their game. His impact was immediate and noticeable, especially in the win over Ohio, where he was named the starter on the first offensive snap of the game, an opportunity few rookies get this early. While tight ends coach Vince Marrow made it clear that Rodriguez's presence on the first play wasn't intended as a form of recognition, the youngster proved that he's there on his own merit. Marrow, who has been sparingly handing out praise recently, noted that Rodriguez is playing like a veteran. He's playing like a sophomore instead of a freshman, Marrow said, comparing him to a young Josh Caddis, one of the team's most promising tight ends. Those words carry weight, especially when they come from a coach known for his toughness and rigor. Rodriguez, a Northern Kentucky native, has shown physicality and maturity beyond his years. Despite not having had a full spring practice, he has quickly adapted to the Wildcat system, averaging 10 snaps at tight end over the past 3 games. For a rookie who didn't expect to be on the field so often so early, that represents impressive growth. By his own admission, the mental transition has been one of the biggest challenges. Once you learn and get the hang of it, things really slow down in the game, and you can really play fast, Rodriguez said. That confidence and quickness are being noticed not only by coaches, but also by the team's veterans. Caddis, Jordan Dingle, and Kamari Anderson, who once battled for space as freshmen, now face Rodriguez's presence as a challenge. Coach Marrow was clear. They all needed to step up their game. These guys were seeing it, Marrow said, referring to the rookie's evolution. The result? Caddis, Dingle, and Anderson have all answered the call and stepped up their game in recent games. For Kentucky fans, the development of the tight ends is a cause for great anticipation. Fans want to see these players make a difference, not only in blocking, but also in the passing game. With pass protection issues and a clear need for more explosive plays in the running game, Rodriguez emerges as an interesting solution. His passion for blocking and dominating the trenches is evident. Running the ball is one of my favorite things to do, blocking, just dominating the line of scrimmage, the rookie said. This punishing style of play is exactly what the Wildcats need to strengthen their physical presence in games. Rodriguez's presence in the trenches, especially in a system as competitive as the SEC, could be the difference Kentucky needs in tighter games. He has already shown himself to be a force in training camp, and now, with more playing time, he is starting to turn his potential into real production. The question now is, how long will it be before Coach Mark Stoops starts using him as an experimental weapon in the passing game? It's important to note that in addition to his individual development, Rodriguez is involved in opportunities for the overall improvement of the tight end group. His presence has put the veterans on alert, reminding them that internal competition is one of the keys to the success of any elite team. The ever-vigilant Coach Marrow confirms this effect. Caddis, Dingle, and Kamari have all done really well the last two games, and I think a little bit of that has to do with a rookie coming in, Marrow said, indicating that the internal competition has driven everyone to be at their best. The future looks bright, and with the right mindset, the rookie has everything he needs to establish himself as a key player for the Wildcats in the coming seasons. In the meantime, fans can be excited about the prospect of seeing an increasingly strong, physically dominant, and versatile tight end group ready to make a difference in the trenches and beyond. Kentucky has a young man on its hands who combines raw talent with an impeccable work ethic, something that, in such a competitive program, is essential for long-term success. Game on! With Kentucky's matchup with the Ole Miss Rebels fast approaching, injury updates have become a hot topic, especially surrounding Chip Trayanum, one of the most anticipated transfers of the Mark Stoops era. Trayanum, who came to Kentucky after an impressive stint as a running back at Ohio State, has yet to make his debut for the Wildcats due to an injury that has kept him out of action for the season thus far. Now that he has been cleared by doctors to return to football, the big question is whether he will be on the field this weekend against Ole Miss. Despite the good news that Trayanum has been cleared, his status remains uncertain. Even though the medical department has given the all-clear, the player is listed as doubtful for Saturday's September 28th matchup. That's because, in addition to the injury that has kept him out, he has also been out of practice, which could hamper his game. Returning to the intensity of an SEC game without having returned to full practice is always a challenge. Mark Stoops has been careful in managing the return of injured players, and the coaching staff may opt to hold him out for another week to ensure he returns to his peak performance. The impact of Trayanum's potential return to Kentucky's offense cannot be understated. He is an explosive runner who can change the game with his physicality and vision. If he is cleared to play, even in a limited capacity, his presence would be a factor for the Ole Miss defense. However, the most realistic expectation is that the Kentucky staff will remain cautious, allowing the player to return fully prepared to face the physical challenges of the SEC. In addition to Trayanum, Kentucky's injury report highlights several other key players out for the game against Ole Mississippi. 5 players are listed as out. Hardly Gilmore 4, WR, Darian Henry-Young DL, Tavian Gadsden DL, Cortland Ford OL, and Jose Hayes DL. The absence of Ford and Hayes in particular will be felt in the trenches, as both are key players in protecting the quarterback and controlling the line of scrimmage. For a team that has struggled in pass protection and creating plays in the running game, losing those players in a crucial SEC matchup is a significant concern. Another player listed as doubtful, in addition to Trayanum, is linebacker Devin Smith. The Wildcats' defensive depth will be tested, especially against a fast-paced, dynamic attack like Ole Mississippi. Smith's absence or limitation will add even more pressure to Kentucky's defense, which will have to contend with one of the most aggressive offenses in the conference without some of its key players. On the Ole Miss side, Lane Kiffin has had his own battle with injuries. While this is the first SEC game of the season, and thus the first time Kiffin has been required to release an injury report, the list is extensive with 26 players mentioned. However, most of the players are listed as probable, meaning Kiffin will be able to count on a good portion of his roster. Among the absentees and doubtful, however, there may be some names that will directly impact the matchup. For Kentucky, the focus at this point is to find solutions within the available roster. The absence of key pieces on the defensive and offensive lines can be compensated for with younger and less experienced players, but they will have to raise their level of play to face a team like Ole Miss, which brings an explosive offense and can quickly capitalize on any mistake or weakness. The possible absence of Chip Trayanum also represents a challenge for the Wildcats offense, which needs to find a solid identity in the running game. The expectation of seeing him on the field is high, especially considering the potential impact he can have alongside other Kentucky playmakers. However, with his status still uncertain, Mark Stoops and his coaching staff will have to carefully evaluate the risks of putting him on the field at this point in the season. And will you watch the game? I want to hear your opinion now. And don't forget to subscribe.